All right, Coach, what's going on?
How you been?
Good, good, good. We got a great guest today. We have Coach Ballgame. We're going to talk some youth sports. We're going to talk some baseball. Last week I think we covered. Was it last week or 2 weeks ago? We did basketball with your buddy from uh,
2 weeks. Two
high
weeks ago.
school. Yep,
God,
yep.
they're flying. It's crazy.
So yeah, that was 2 weeks ago. So we're moving around. Listen, we've covered. Obviously, we always cover football, but we're now covering baseball. We cover youth sports occasionally. We covered the Nathan's hot dog champion. You know what I mean? So not hot dog. I'm sorry,
We're hitting
lemonade
on everything
champion.
we possibly could.
Lemonade champion. That's right. So we're going to talk some youth sports. I started following Coach Ballgame on TikTok. That's where I first saw him because my son plays baseball and was really just, like looking for different tips on things and, development wise. And I came across his page. And first of all, his voice is very compelling. But
Amazing.
but the first thing I caught me out with not just the tips, but the nicknames he had at his camps. It was just so good. It was just like, I don't know how he did it. He had like a drum and he would go through it. And then I just started following him. And as I continued to follow him, I just, the tips he gave for baseball players, just the tidbits, the little cues to help the younger kids.
Right.
So it was really, really just great stuff. And so, we wanted to get him on and talk to him some more. And he's
Yeah,
obviously become
excited.
very viral. He runs camps all over the country as well. So without further ado, let's bring on Coach Ballgame. What's up, Coach?
Wow. I love it. I'm gonna need you guys to give me that intro every morning when I
There you
wake
go.
up and get my oatmeal and my glass of milk. Thanks for having me. Good to be here.
Look, I appreciate it, Coach. We're looking forward to it. That's for sure.
It's great to have you on. What? So, all right, in your oatmeal, what do you have in your oatmeal when you have in the morning?
Oh, we're going there. Well, let's kick it off hot with
Yeah.
almond butter. We
Okay.
got
Oh,
blueberries. We've got milk. We've got blueberry flavored oatmeal. We've got protein powder. We got this green superfood powder.
nice.
When you hit 40, your wife starts buying this stuff. These powders and these things to keep you tight, keep you fit.
Keep
So,
it regular.
That's it, man. The dad bod rules this podcast, so we're good.
so that's it. And then, a whole bunch of coffee and I'm good to go.
That's
No,
it.
that's great. And I asked that because I have oatmeal just about every morning, and I put a bunch of different things in there as well. I put this peanut butter powder. I put a little protein powder. Put a little honey. I put a little chia seed. I put a little hemp seed. And I think back when I was young, and when I would eat oatmeal, it would just be the flavored oatmeal. And that was
You're
it.
like, I got to get out of here. Let me eat whatever I
Yeah,
can and go. Now we have time to
Oh,
put it all together.
well,
that was
oatmeal. No, it was cinnamon toast crunch or fruity pebbles for me
Yeah,
back
buddy.
then.
That's it.
That's
Love it.
very, very, very true. That's very true. So, Coach, I touched on the intro, but I want to let you really kind of go into your background and coaching and playing, and how you kind of came on to really started doing all this stuff, and obviously you're really growing with the camps as well. Talk more about that.
Yeah. I'm almost 42 years old now, father of two, living here in Orange County, California, but it started in North Carolina. We had a small house in a one-horse town in the very center of North Carolina state. Had two brothers, mom and dad. The brothers taught me all the sports. My dad taught me how to laugh, and my mom taught me how to be a good person. That was really where those priorities for them. And me and my brothers, I was the youngest. We would invite neighbors over, friends over, and we'd play sports all day long. And we had a basketball court out there. We had a swing set, horseshoes, everything. But the one that really stuck was sandlot baseball. We'd use a tennis ball, couldn't use a hard ball. We'd break the windows in the house, but we're out there playing all day long. Couldn't hit it towards third base. There's a big tree there. If you hit the house, it was a double. If you hit the roof, it was a triple. If you hit it over the house, it was a home run. If you hit it across the street, the dog would eat it. It was really sandlot baseball from the beginning. Played all three sports through high school. We played basketball, we played football, we played baseball. But by senior year, I knew baseball was the calling. So Brown University, 4 years there. I am the proud career hit by pitch record holder at Brown University. True story, documented. And that's how I introduce myself whenever I meet famous people. Didn't get drafted. No pro teams wanted me. So I think a lot of that had to do with my first and only run against Mr. Justin Verlander. He was pitching for Old Dominion. This is back in 2003. I'm batting third for Brown University. He throws a fastball about 96, and I did not see it. Not clearly anyway. It looked like it had hair on it. It was kind of blurry. Strike one. Next pitch, closed my eyes, foul ball. Good. Next pitch was a hammer, curve ball. It started at the roof and went all the way down. As it started to dip down into the strike zone, I did not throw up, but I did dry heave. I audibly went, and umpire said, strike three, you're out. And that was the moment. That was the moment I knew that my playing days were over and it's time to do something else. So that's the day I became a youth coach. From Brown, I traveled out to California where I had a buddy coaching camps for kids, and these are baseball camps. And I said, well, I don't know what I want to do with my life. I know what I like. I like music. I like acting. I like writing. I like directing. I like entertaining. I like art. So let's go to Los Angeles, California. And that's where it all began in my 20s, chasing what I loved, but having this through line of coaching kids in my 20s and really learning how to coach by the help of some mentors that I'm so thankful I had. But that's how this whole thing got started. And a lot of people are like, whoa, look at you. You're all over the place. And I always say, yeah, it's an overnight success, 20 years in the making. So
yeah, it works.
it's a long journey, and I'm proud of the journey. But that's a little 3-minute on who I am and where I came from.
Well, I think it's incredible how you decided to go. I mean, obviously, you love baseball and you love sports in general, but you decided to go from Brown. You said, you know what, I'm going to go pursue a career in acting and art and everything like that, instead of the old career finance path going right down to Wall Street, like half of your colleagues probably.
Oh,
right?
more than half. More than half, 90% of them. And I studied business econ in college because I didn't know what I wanted to do. And everybody that didn't know what they wanted to do was studying business econ. And then all my friends are going to, Oxford Business School and Harvard Law. And here I am like, man, I fell asleep in those classes. But there was this class at Brown, theater arts, that I was excited to go to. And luckily I had parents, awesome parents who are still with us in North Carolina, that didn't allow me to settle. They said, you know what, if you settle into a job that you hate, it's going to be a long, sad life. So they pushed me to go find it. And around age 30, I found it. I found out how to marry all of my loves. I loved entertaining. I loved baseball. I loved music. So creating this Coach Ballgame thing where I can bring a drum and entertain kids. I can tell stories to kids to engage them and give them nicknames. I can dress up in costumes. And then when the iPhone came around, create content based on coaching these kids. It's a perfect marriage. So glad I didn't settle, all thanks to my folks.
No, it's pretty amazing. Now the content creation part is an incredible skill that you have. So you really do marry all those things in the new technology world, especially because you're able to get like that short form entertainment and grab a hold of everybody, and then at the same time really get the powerful message that you want to get across with respect to youth sports and baseball and development as being the key thing, for athletes. especially in the sport that you're focused on, but in general, development of the athlete, the encouragement of them, the positivity, right? Talk about how you started to kind of marry those worlds together, and then I definitely want to dive into the whole baseball thing. But tell me how you, for the people who are watching this, because you've done a masterful job of it. To me, it's one of the literally of the content creators out there in sports. It's one of the very, very tippy top best channels there are out there. And you combine education, you combine entertainment. Talk about how you kind of crafted it all together and started putting it together from that standpoint.
Well, honored. Thank you. That's very high praise. I was a flip phone guy forever. And then in 2016, once again, there's a better half that motivated me to get one of these iPhones and said, hey, start setting this camera up on a bucket while you're coaching these kids and have fun with it. So I learned how to edit. I found an app called Splice that I could edit things together. I also use iMovie. And I said, well, here's what I'm noticing. What I'm seeing is a lot of skill-based content. And there's not a lot of humor to it. That's not my voice. I want to marry Saturday Night Live with baseball. I want to marry art and baseball. So my voice is humor. That's where I go to first. So I said, well, I'll just start making some videos where I'm chatting with these kids, getting to know them. And slowly but surely, we'd start getting a little following, 100 followers, 200 followers. I downloaded the Facebook app, the Instagram. When TikTok came around, I started doing that. But it's really been a slow burn for 8 years now. But something that really hit was during COVID, the shutdown, where I couldn't coach kids in person for what ended up being about 3 or 4 months, but we didn't know how long it was going to be. Yeah, no idea. How do I do this?
And it was right during that spring season, which is probably your peak kind of time when guys really start ramping it up, right? Like
absolutely
that right into summer. Like, so now it's like, well, what do I do? Right? Like,
what do I do? So, I mean, I was knocking on doors at Costco and Trader Joe's. Like, do I go, I got to feed my family. I got 2 daughters here, but I had some motivation from friends that said, no, you're Coach Ballgame. You coach kids. You got to do that. So I went in the backyard and I did an online PE class for 80 straight days. And I had my mother-in-law's phone for Facebook Live. I had my laptop on for YouTube. I had my phone for Instagram Live. And we started to get a following around the country that way. I continued to do content as far as skills go and tried to make it funny as well. But that started to catch on. And then I get a phone call from a lady I had no idea who it was. She said, my name's Sandy. And this is 2021, just on the back end of COVID. She says, you don't know me, but my husband has loved watching your videos. He just recently passed after a long fight with cancer. But he loved what you were about, character, fun, giving him nicknames. He was a teacher and a coach for 50 years. In lieu of flowers, he said, when he passes, send money to this Coach Ballgame guy. Wow. So I'm going, okay, this is a prank call from a friend. Really, that's funny. I get on the phone with her son, and he's like, this is real. There's no catch here. What's your Venmo? $20,000 later from people that used to be, his name's Dave Schreckengast, who passed. They used to be his students or former players. They're like, we don't know you, but we trust the Schreckengast family. So here you go. Me and my wife are like, what do we do with this? I had it in my heart. Well, we've created a bit of a buzz with this online PE class around the country. Let's go around the country and run free sandlots for kids. Let's preach this message of joy and character development and shine a light on just some problems with youth sports and how we're going about it. So we went to the Field of Dreams in Iowa. We went to St. Louis, we went to Chicago,
Awesome.
we went to Pennsylvania, and we went to the Bronx of New York, and we ran free sandlots. And that was really the beginning of it all. Talk about the ripple effect of one act of kindness from this family. But that was a real turning point locally here in Orange County, where I just kind of went I went all in on the Coach Ballgame thing, and around the country as well. And what I noticed locally was nobody else was able to play games. They couldn't play soccer, football, basketball, but under my camp umbrella, I was able to navigate and able to run my own camps and things. So it grew locally as well. But a roundabout answer to say, it's been a slow burn. But once I started really leaning into coaching coaches, that's when it really hit.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Yeah, it just really shows your impact and like doing something of that nature where you're literally just doing it for, in reality for like yourself, but you're looking to kind of progress along and grow it. And then just by you trusting the process and kind of going through it, now all of a sudden, like good things happen, right? And now you turn around and you could have just taken that and done whatever you wanted with it. But now to reinvest in it and then grow it, I think is ultimately like, it's what a lot of people should do, but I think majority wouldn't have done. So kudos to you for doing that and utilizing that to kind of, hey, I can really take this to the next level a little bit faster with this act of kindness, right?
100%. It was a huge thing because I'm pretty routine oriented. I can be safe and just stay in my own little bubble and say, okay, we're paying the rent doing this little thing. But I mean, I have a wife with big ideas, and she's not going to give me an ultimatum, but she is definitely let me know, hey,
she's gonna push the envelope
come
a little
on,
bit.
I see what we can do here. Let's grow. And big thanks to her and friends who pushed me along, including strangers like this family who raised $20,000. And since then, I've been to over 300 different cities, coached over 100,000 kids all over, not just America, but Europe as well.
Right. Yeah, because baseball is big, international. Like, we usually talk football and whatnot, and American football you don't really see outside of America, right? Like, it's just they try it, but it just doesn't have the same buzz that it does here. Baseball, international. I mean, you're talking all over the entire world is baseball. So that market itself opens it up to, God knows what.
Absolutely. And, I'm very fortunate. MLB has come along and partnered up with me and given me a job as the ambassador of Play Ball, which is basically their youth department. We run free camps all over the world, and I get to run those. It's really my comfort zone. Give me 100 kids and a microphone, and I'm ready to rock. And we got to go to London just a few months ago in June for the Phillies and Mets. And what I noticed is not just in Great Britain, all over Europe, there's a buzz about this game of baseball. It is growing for sure. So good on MLB. I will say all thanks to a friend, Joe Buck. He's been a friend for a long time, but when he noticed what I was doing, he flew to New York.
He heard that voice.
Yeah, he flew to New York and he said, hey, Manfred, you got to take a look at this guy. He can grow the game to this next generation. So you kind of need somebody pretty loud and willing to open the door for you. And then I just said, okay, Joe, I'm going to knock this door down as hard as I can once you open it up. So again, I can't really open the door, but folks like Joe Buck and this family, the Schreckengast, if they just squeak it open, then I can kick it down. And that was the plan.
Yeah, and that's definitely what happened. As someone who used to run over 100 camps around the country every single year in the football space, I can appreciate what it takes to really grow the camp business and to be able to really try to reach as many people as you can, and you're trying to continue to expand your message. It's really, really cool. The youth baseball aspect and how baseball has changed from the time from when you were playing as a kid to when you went to college to now has changed radically. And I would say travel ball and like maybe elite travel ball versus the whole recreation little league scenario has taken hold hugely, especially the last 10 years. And I think, as a father that's trying to navigate it myself, I find it to be craziness. You're in one half trying to get your kid to develop. He loves the game. He wants to develop. And then, you play you play little league, and all the kids who play travel basically dominate little league, but little league doesn't want those kids to leave little league. Right. So I don't know that it's always so fair to the kids who really are developing. Right. And then the travel ball kids, the kids who are traveling travel ball, they get caught in a whole world where they're forced to play 9 million games, and they don't really, they like being around their friends. They like the aspect of the camaraderie of travel ball, other players that are good, maybe are a little bit better than maybe other kids. So they want a little bit more, but they also I don't think want to play 9,000 games. Right. So, there's such a difficult balance in baseball, and their parents are pulled in a lot of different directions. Sometimes their own fault. Sometimes I would say some level of pressure in keeping up with the Joneses, and maybe even their kid, right? Sometimes their kid says, "Hey, I want to do this. My friends are doing this.
Right.
I'd like to be on this team too." And what are you seeing in youth sports? And I know you're working hard to really get things on a better path. Kind of tell me what you're seeing and what you think are the good, bad, and the ugly, and what we can maybe start to do to fix it. I know it's probably an hour conversation right there, but I'll let you roll.
Yeah, that's a whole book. Yeah, I mean, it was just starting to come to the surface when I was 12, 13, 14 years old, where I'd get a call here and there and say, hey, let's do this tournament down in Florida with some of the elite players in our county. But I was never driven to it. When I did try it in the fall, I'm like, you know what? I'm missing football. I'm missing basketball a little bit. I'll do baseball in a different season. So that was my cup of tea, was playing all the different sports. And then by the time I got to college, I was all in, and I was ready to go year round at that sport. Nowadays, very, very prevalent. And here's what I've noticed. Travel ball in every sport, club ball, I think it's a necessity. And I think it's a great, great thing for the elite player. But it's very, very dependent on the coach. I had a kid, his nickname was The Show. And this is 2016. I'm just starting camps here in Orange County, California. He comes up to me, he says, hey, Coach Ballgame, I'm going to quit baseball. I was like, what are you talking about, buddy? You're a really great player. You have a love of the game. He said, yeah, my travel ball coach won't let me play soccer. I got to play year-round baseball or I lose my spot. I've got friends on this baseball team that I want to be with, but I also have friends that are playing soccer. I also just want to be a kid and hang out with my family. I said, how old are you? He said, 7. That was the introduction for me.
Oh my!
So I know, incredibly laughable. I know. So I said, well, that is one mentally unwell coach, and that's a one-off. There's no way that could be a pattern. Well, I start getting more of those stories in my emails, in my DMs, and at a certain point, I go, oh, this is a problem. There is a problem in youth sports. And it's not just baseball. It's in the hockey culture, the soccer culture, softball. It's all over.
Brutal.
And it's coach driven. The problem is coach driven. Why? Because there are great opportunities for the elite player to get better, to face different challenges and get ready for that next level that they can't find in recreation ball. Rec ball is amazing. It's the best. It's what I grew up on, and it's a beautiful community driving deal. But if you want to maybe get a little extra jump on that high school tryout, there's some great things that can happen from elite ball, but you've got to find a coach who's big picture oriented.
Yes.
Am I trying to win a game today? Am I trying to win a trophy today? Or am I looking big picture and thinking, what kind of husband is this kid going to be one day because of me? Can we extend this kid's career to where he's going to learn more life lessons? You have to be a life lesson oriented person to be a great coach. A good coach will change a game, but a great one changes a life. So if you go about it the right way, where this kid's going to be a father one day, this kid might date my daughter one day, and I want to make sure they're a good person. I also want them to love the game. If you're prioritizing joy and character over wins, then that's a great coach. And that's the coach you want to join in whatever sport you want to become elite at. But when you have to win that game, well, the right fielder who's getting no attention because you have to win that game, they're going to walk away from whatever sport you're playing. They're not going to learn all those life lessons down the road. They're going to go do something else. That pitcher that you're overusing because you have to win that game, they're going to burn out. They're going to have Tommy John, and mentally they're going to be like, I'm done. By the time I get to college, this has been a job for 6 years playing in 50 tournaments a year. I'm over this. I've seen it in person many, many times. By the time you are starting at NC State, you want to quit because all you've been driven to do your whole childhood life is to go further, harder, better. So the lens that coaches need to put on is, how can we make them a great human? And I'm hopeful that what I'm trying to do and what I'm seeing from college coaches, major league coaches and managers, major league players, as I'm able to interview some of them, and some of them are starting their own podcasts on youth sports and how do we fix it. I'm seeing guys like Jeff Francoeur and Greg Olson come out and say, hey, what happened to my sport? Yeah. What happened to this culture? What happened to playing multiple sports and becoming a really well-rounded athlete? That way, when you're asked in 10th grade to move from your normal position of shortstop to center field because there's a senior at shortstop and he's not losing his job. Did you play football? Were you a free safety? Did you play basketball? Were you able to move those feet the way we need you to? When it gets hard, when everybody's a little bit better than you, when you get to college, have you learned those social skills and those life lessons from a different sport that makes you tough and gives you that ability to overcome adversity? I mean, one of the worst things you can do for a player is turn them into a one-trick pony. So as you ask any college coach, what are they looking for? I need a kid who loves the game with all their heart, right? That's not burnout. And I need a person of good, high character. I'll teach him how to throw a curveball. I'll teach him how to play a certain position. But I don't have time to teach him to be a good human or to love the game. So that travel ball world, I think it's great. And I've never dipped my toe into it until this past year. I'm working with some friends to create this organization called the Flying Pigs, where we're going to put attaboy and attagirl on the back of the jerseys. And it's going to be ball game meets travel ball. It's about character. It's about long game. It's about big picture. It's about teaching love of play. And we're really just trying to inject a little positivity and common sense into that world. Who'd have thought that'd be novel, but it is.
Well, who'd have thought we would even have to be coaching that, right? Like, or who would have thought that would ever be, you know what I mean? Like, it started like the passion and the for the game. That's the minimum. Like, you have to have that. You have to want to do that, but you also have to create an environment where that can only grow more so as the child or the kid grows within the sport itself. And we talk about it all the time about multi-sport guys. And it's like, you know, go play other sports, because like you said, not only the physical development that goes along with it, learning other skills or, this or that, but the just the mental side of it. Like, you might be the best football player, but you go play basketball, maybe you're not the best basketball player. Now you have to deal with not being the guy, or, that type of thing that just develops. And by the time you're done with all of that, you get to high school and now you're a well-rounded just human in general. And I think a lot of times, like, that's, parents either don't understand that part of it, or, you know what I mean, or we need to do a better job communicating that this is the goal of this. It's not just, how many points Jimmy can score or how many hits he can get. There's so much more to it, socially and emotionally, than there is any of the on the field stuff.
And I really don't know that any kid I coach, and I've already coached over 100,000 kids in my entire lifetime, I might not coach one kid that makes it to Major League Baseball. Think of that. Think of the numbers. Think of all the different faces. But every single one of them will be an adult one day. The math tells us that. All right. Every kid you coach in football this season, next season, whatever sport you're coaching, the likelihood of them playing college athletics is very, very low. Playing professionally, almost zero. But they'll all have a tough decision to make in a dark moment one day, and they might think of you and go, you know what? That coach taught me this life lesson. That coach taught me how to attack this adversity in a good way, and so that's the whole point of coaching. Even to the you think of Doc Roberts for the Dodgers, John Wooden for UCLA. I'm reading these books that they're all writing. It's the same thing up there. Dusty Baker, who's the players manager, just won a couple of World Series in a row. He's known to be a savant of people. Before he ever coaches the player, he is getting to know the person, and he wants to mold that person into a good human being, a server of their community one day. Mm-hmm. And that's at the highest level.
That's what you win with. That's how you win. You win with people. Absolutely. The X's and O's stuff, the sport itself, all that's the intent. I can teach you to catch a ball. I can teach you to do all those things. But like you said, the when you link up and create a sense of comfort within the players themselves, now they buy in. Now they're all in. Once they're all in and understand that my coach is behind me 100% and doesn't only care about whether I go 3 for 4 on the day or whether I have this many strikeouts. When he knows, like, that when I come to the ballpark, hey, you good? What's going on? Is there a problem? Let's talk about this. How can we handle this? When those players understand that this coach cares more for me about that type of stuff, the off the field stuff, now I feel like the actual sport itself is the easy part. Right?
Absolutely. I see a lot of first-time coaches, and they're so obsessed with the skill development and what I saw on YouTube to help fix this swing or make them throw better. There's a lot of important stuff that you got to do first, and it involves the person. How about you find out his name, find out what he or she loves to do, what do they love to eat for breakfast, find a nickname based off something that they love, paint a picture of who they are as a person. Because if you show the child that you care for them as a person, they'll love that sport more. And then they will listen to you when you teach them how to tackle or how to shoot a free throw or how to hit a ball to the opposite gap. But you gotta win the heart before you go to the skills or the wins, any of that stuff.
I think that's one of the biggest things that's changed from the time, I'm 50, when I was a kid and when you was a kid, and even Derek, Derek's you're in what, late 30s, Derek, I think. So I think the biggest thing that's changed is, it used to be coaches were a certain way. They were part of your community. You had good coaches and bad coaches, but they were part of your community, kind of knew you a little bit better. And I think about it from a football and baseball standpoint. Even when I was growing up, those high school coaches came down and saw you. They came down to the Little League, they came down to the youth football practices and got to know you. And the coaches in your community really got to know you. You have some of that still, but what you have that's different is you have coaches, and I don't want to use the word bad coaches, but yet you have coaches of all different skill levels. Okay, from really, really good coaches to bad coaches, to caring coaches to not caring coaches, to demanding coaches to not demanding coaches, right? And everything in between. And what has been very difficult, I think, for parents in the old days, you used to say, "Oh, that parent's a pain in the butt," right? And sometimes, obviously, there's parents are still pains in the butts here and there, right? Um, uh, they can be issues and have to be managed. But what I think has changed also, which I think I'm getting, it's harder for me to get used to because I coach high school football for 20 years. Now I coach my son in some of his youth stuff, and then I also sit back and watch other coaches coach him in in other sports, right? And I think the thing that's changed is that wide spectrum of coaches and navigating the coaches. And you brought that up, how important the coach is. I think that somehow we've forgotten how important getting in with the right people. Like when kids come and play for me in football, for example, or if I'm coaching basketball, I tell them, they're going to come out with a great experience. Yeah, we're trying to do well. We're trying to develop you, but you're going to come out with a good experience. That's my overall goal. There are some days that aren't great. There are some days that are wonderful, and there's everything in between. But we want to come out with an overall good experience. That's what we're trying to do. But I see so many coaches that have not, and I've had my kid on teams where they were, and they're on some teams when they weren't, and I've had coaches say some really, really interesting things along the lines of what you said, like in travel baseball. Oh, your son's a really good athlete, but I don't know how much he plays, four sports, because he does track too, and but he's a football, baseball, basketball guy, and I don't know how much he's dedicated to football. My son's 9, mind you. Okay, so at the time they were saying he was 8 at the time they were saying, and it was his first year doing any kind of travel, right? So I found that like so shocking. I was, and I'm a guy who's coached for a long time. I played at Division I level of football, so I was so shocked by that. I was shocked. I almost didn't really like have a response per se because it was something that was difficult for me to process, like, and we've always, because sports are all year round, basically all year round now. Like every sport's all year round in some capacity. Yep. So you're kind of picking and choosing. Okay, do you want to do football and some baseball in the fall? Like, but football is your priority. That's what we try to say. Okay, well, when you're in a winter, if you want to do another sport, you're welcome to. You don't have to. Okay, but you like basketball is your priority. Football and baseball are not the priority in the winter. So if we got to choose something, we're going to choose basketball, right? And then when we get to baseball seasons, the same thing. If you're doing baseball and you're running track, we want those to be the priorities over the other stuff, right? So, but I was shocked. So it's funny when you brought up the story of the 7-year-old thing, because I was not shocked hearing that, because they didn't put it the same way that coach put it to him, but they put it a little more subtly, in the sense that, like, here's the reason why we have, you're the 3 sport athletes in the outfield, let's say, per se. Here's why you guys are in the outfield, because you're playing 3 sports, So I think the coach, you brought up such a valuable point there, is how your child gets with certain coaches and investigating that, not necessarily from performance standpoint, but how he's going to treat the kids. And talk about what you think parents should kind of evaluate for themselves when joining a team, and what kind of coach you think should be the right fit for them.
Yeah, I think there's a priority list that you got to set. Is this coach going to breed a love of the game in my child that's going to make them want to play for the next 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years? 2, is this coach, every time they're around them, going to make them a better person? Are they going to lead by example? Are they going to treat failures with unconditional love and detach their joy from the results? Are they process oriented? Are they wanting to make this person a good human? And then the byproducts become skill development and wins. That's got to be the priorities that a parent looks for in their coach. Can a coach communicate well? I think one of the first pieces of advice I give coaches is you want to be able to communicate to the players and the parents. So throw a barbecue at the beginning of the season, make
so
some
smart.
burgers,
Yeah.
absolutely, and talk to these parents and let them in and just listen to their journey. How long's your kid been playing? What's your story? Because when those parents trust you as a coach, then when you drop that email that says, we're going to go about this the right way, we're going to build character, we're going to create love of play. The wins may happen, they may not, but that's not the number one priority. It's going to be a byproduct. Well, then when you drop that email, that truth bomb, you know what? The parents are a little negative, a little toxic. You're not going to be able to yell at umpires and show kids that it is okay to be disrespectful to other people. We're not going to micromanage our kids from the sidelines. That's unproductive. They don't perform well when they're looking over their shoulder for your approval. When you need to drop all of these dimes on them, they need to have built that trust first. So that barbecue is a huge deal. And from the parents' point of view, if you've got a coach that has that heart for the big picture and the long game, and what kind of human am I creating, and how long can we make this career, then that's the one. That's the one you want to look for. So be picky. Be picky with your coaches, because there's a lot of them out there that are going to be subtle in their sarcasm, and they're going to have a motive of, hey, well, great athlete, great player, but he's going to play center field because he's doing other sports. We're hitting it with my 10-year-old daughter. She's big into dance, just loves it so much, but wanted to try softball. Thankfully, we found a dance community where the teacher says, hey, we want your child to have a full childhood. So yes, you can miss this class on Tuesday so you can do softball practice, and vice versa. The softball coach is doing the same thing. Hey,
Amazing.
we have daughters doing multiple things as well. You've got to find those coaches. You got to find those cultures. If you see red flags, run for the hills. There's other places to go. Simple as that. But when you sniff out that win at all cost or that specialization style coach, just know that coach is doing it for them. They're not in it for the kids. So sniff out those red flags and move on.
That's fantastic. I'm also curious about, because you obviously have done so many videos on different techniques and batting and catching, and I love your cues that you have. I wish I could remember them all so I could spit them back at you. But they're so phenomenal. They're simple to the point. What are your thoughts on kids going and getting training versus just going out there and like, hey man, like I think it might have been, but you'd have talked about it, just hitting in the yard, man, and hitting the ball to yourself. Like that's going to teach you that hand-eye coordination. Like one of the things that, because my son always wants to go out with me, which I can do most of the time, but I say to him, you could sit on your back and throw the ball to yourself over and over again. When I was a kid, like video games came into play around like 10, 11 years old. It wasn't, I would just sit on the back, my back and just throw the ball. Like while I was watching TV, just throw the ball to myself because I like catching the ball. Right. And so I remember you talking about how they could just sit and hit and with a wiffle ball, whatever it is. Right. What are your thoughts on, should kids go for development with training with coaches? When is that necessary? Because baseball is a high fail sport, right? And there's great lessons with that, but it's a high fail sport, and learning how to get better at those individual skills are so important in the overall development from a baseball standpoint, which I think is very unique. Me and Derek coached football for a long time, and one of the things we always love about football is, if you come out for football your freshman year and you're a great athlete, we pretty much, and Derek probably agree with me on this, if you're willing to stick your nose in there, we probably can make you a pretty good football player fairly quickly. You know what I mean? But baseball, I would gather that if I came in their freshman year and I never hit a ball before, it's going to be hard to just even make the team. Even if you had the chance to be good, you're never going to get there from a skill standpoint. So talk about when you think those things should start to happen and what they can do on their own as well.
Yeah, baseball, golf, a little bit different where it is more hand-eye coordination, a lot of skill set. I saw it with my daughter yesterday. First softball practice ever. We've played catch in the backyard, and I've tossed her wiffle balls, but I noticed she was struggling with a few things, like hitting a pitch that's coming in pretty fast. She's underneath every single one. So I paid the rent by doing private lessons for a decade while I was waiting tables, while I was trying to build this Coach Ballgame thing. And what I noticed was in the game of baseball and softball, it definitely helps as long as it's not overdone. I think once a week, meeting with somebody who can work on one skill per week, that's enough. Now, I definitely had 84 different things going on in my brain on why that kid's not hitting that ball and what they need to know. But in the brain of an 8-year-old, they need one word only, maybe 2 words, maybe 3, and that's enough for a whole week of consumption. So when you are teaching the skills, try to break it down into its most simple form so they can chew on it and they can learn from it. So yes, I think one-on-one private skill development, it definitely helps a kid fall in love with the game more. Again, that's priority 1 for me. How can I get them to fall in love with the game? Well, if they keep swinging and missing, or they keep making that bad throw, they're not going to fall in love with the game. They're going to feel like a failure and want to walk away. So that improvement of the skills is a huge part of my priority 1. But you don't want to overdo it. You know, you want to go to that baseball lesson on Wednesday nights, and then we've got swim on Thursdays. Then it's family night on Fridays. Balance, common sense is everything. So I'm excited to work on 1 word per week with my daughter to get her a little bit better at hitting. So she'll maybe want to play a little bit more. But I'm also very excited to watch her dance tomorrow and see how she can, keep pursuing that passion as well.
I also think hearing it from a different voice, right? Like just, just different coaches obviously all bring, you can have multiple coaches with the same, end in mind, but just hearing things from a different just voice in general can also create, more of a positive outlook on things. Like if each guy is all aligned for the same, we're all crossing the same finish line, but we're not all going to get there the same way. And listen, each kid is different. What one guy might be great for one kid might not be great for another kid. So like you said with parents, like, look, like do your due diligence, do your homework, just find the right whatever works for you. It doesn't have to be, the guy that's worked with 7 of these other people, because maybe that approach isn't your child's approach.
Absolutely. And for the coaches out there, don't take it personal when a kid leaves your program.
Right.
You can't. Look, think of how much better you're setting that kid up for the future when you allow them to hear a different voice, or you allow them to play a different sport. You allow them to see it from a different angle when they do try and get this job in corporate America 20 years down the road. And, it's a different voice than you have. You gotta open them up, diversify their portfolio. And I always say that to coaches. And I felt it early on in coaching. I take it a little personally. Oh, you're going to go try this guy.
We're
you're
very
go to that
territorial as coaches, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
We're very territorial as coaches.
There's a controlling thing there. And then
this is my little, this is my, like, he's mine. Don't be
and
whatever.
I would go inward as a failure too. Like, how am I failing you as a coach?
Right.
Meanwhile, why am I making it about me? This isn't about me, right? This is about the child. This is about the student and growing. So I'm always growing. I started as a bad coach. I'm writing a book right now. I've created a playbook as well, on kind of a starter kit for all coaches on how to do these important things before they try and win games or teach skills. And the first line of the book is, I used to be a bad coach because I came at it from an angle of let's wean out the non-elite player. If a kid is not the 8-year-old version of me, who was crazy about this sport, then send them to the door and let them try something else. Luckily, I had mentors who put their arm around me and said, you have the energy of 30 humans, but that kid hates baseball now because of you, because of your tone,
right?
Because of your self-righteousness, because of your passive-aggressive body language, because I made it about myself. Exactly right. So all the things I've learned, all the failures I've made, I'm ashamed to say it, that, I've definitely made kids walk away from the game, but I have to learn from it, and I try and share it with coaches. And there's going to be a new crop of coaches coming in every year who have never played football or basketball or baseball. And they're like, man, my tool pouch is empty. I need some help. So I'm happy to be that guy.
I think the biggest thing too as coaches is you're always going to make mistakes, right? And not to get, I think the self-righteous point is a big deal. Like, we're coaches in general, in order to become a decent, good coach, just to get to a decent level, you have to have a level of self-righteousness and to think that you can actually help get someone better, right? But it's also your downfall as well, because you feel like you have a skill set that you could teach kids to become better. And then you're also become self-important because of it, because you think you have that skill set. And that is something that has to be managed. And I could say, listen, I coached high school guys for many years. We used to run elite camps in football. I've coached 4 or 5 Heisman Trophy winners. And I can tell you, when I coach young kids now, because my son is coming through, those kids humble you every single day. Like, I can tell you, I'm like, geez,
Every day.
I thought I was a good coach. And now I'm coaching 9-year-olds, and they're not understanding what I'm trying to explain to them, and because you have to change the way you talk to them. You have to change the learning environment. You have to change how, they learn differently than a high school kid or a college kid would learn. And you have to talk to them differently. If you're upset with them, you can't stay upset with them. You have to come back to an even spot, so they see you at an even spot and realize that it's okay, because they will get upset if you're upset, and they'll think it's something that they did, right? And you have to explain that to them.
I think of it like a fruit basket where, okay, I'm working with 4-year-olds today. That's an apple. All right, let's chew on this apple right here. The expectations are make sure nobody gets hurt, and we did our job. I'm working with 5-year-olds today. Okay, that's a peach. What are we working on there? Still, the expectations are quite low, and we're not going to shame anybody if they're playing in the dirt or not listening. We're going to try and get them to want to come back tomorrow. And maybe that means water balloons, or acting like one of their favorite superheroes or TV characters. Then you get to the 9-year-olds, and you're chewing on an orange. You get to the high school kids, and that's a pear. You just have to treat them as different books as the ages change, and that takes time. Took me a lot of time watching other great coaches, watching kindergarten teachers work with that 4 or 5-year-old age, watching great mentors work with the 12-year-olds. Okay, so we can have a little different tone here. We can challenge a little more. We can be firm when need be. But I think the most important thing of all, and if I had only one word to teach coaches how to coach, that word would be listen, because you have to meet every kid on their own playing field. You have to meet every kid in their own personality type. You got to find each kid's love language. Do they respond to words of affirmation? Do they respond to humor? Do they respond to me being firm? Do they respond to a consequence? Do they respond to me giving a baseball card to somebody else who's making a good choice, and then they go, ooh, I want that card. Do they want that prize? So become a savant of personalities and people. Notice we haven't talked X's and O's at all in about an hour here. It's so much more. It's therapy session. It's psychology of coaching. So that's why most of my content is this, because it's so important.
No doubt. The prize thing, and Derek's worked a lot of camps with me, and we always he loves it. I'm like the prize king, right? Because I run this And I love that you do that, by the way. That's one of the things I love, what you do when you give out the cards and stuff. And we run summer camps, football camps. It's instruction. It's an all instruction camp. We run a lot of different things, but this one's just all instruction, right? And every day we give different prizes. Well, we have like a football club, and we have flag football leagues, and we have all these different stuff. So over the course of a year, we have gloves, we have, all kinds of,
you name it.
We have all these uniforms that are, everything that's basically around at the end is all there, right? And so we have these two bins that are just basically, it's like going to the what do you call it, TJ Maxx, you know what I'm saying? And it's all this different stuff. And when we first started doing it, we didn't know it would be a hit, but the kids think it love it more than anything. It's been the biggest draw of getting kids back to the camp. They come away with gloves. You give out prizes each day for different things.
I love it.
And parents always say how much they enjoy the camp. I always say, a small token that you appreciate, a really small token, it goes so far with them, because they realize, wow, he does know that I'm working hard, or I'm trying my best. And it's funny when we see coaches that are stingy with that stuff, because we're like, what are you worried about? You give an extra prize away. That means that's one more kid that's happy. That's all that means. And that tomorrow he's going to give you some more hard work because of that. Probably work a little bit harder and figure out what, there's a balance to it all, right? You don't want to give someone an award he didn't earn, and I guess, but you want to give kids the opportunity to work. So I love the prize thing, and I think that it's an overall, you're right, it's a psychology thing. It's important for kids to feel like they want to come back and they want to go through the tough part, because I always say, like, hey, sometimes practice, I say this to my son all the time, sometimes practice is not as exciting as you would like it to be. You're going to have to deal with that. When you're fielding 50 ground balls, I get it when you get to 30 and you've thrown 30 of them perfectly. I get it. You're ready to go be done, And I started developing this thing with my own son, and we try to do it as much in young kids I coach, whereas I'm going to tell you how many reps and how long we're going for. And if I go over, it's my fault, right? And you have to agree to me going over, meaning we didn't do a good job, like it just wasn't good, like those 5 reps or those 10 reps. Do you think maybe we should do a couple more? And usually, you know what amazingly they say? Yes. They say yes, because they know, okay, some of those reps really weren't that good. They really do want to do it. But if you keep them out there forever and they have no end in sight, you're gonna lose them. And I think some of those things are important. And I want your comment on this, but I'll leave you one last thing, and I want you to comment kind of your final thoughts. When my son was 3, I think he was 3 years old, there's like a thing called soccer shots. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's on the East Coast. They have it, like they take little kids from, I think from the time they're like 1, they can go and like run around and kick soccer balls around. Well, I think my son was 3. We were like, okay, we'll bring them there, sign them up and everything and paid whatever. And he'll go do soccer shots. Well, there was a field there, and next to the field was a playground. My son walked into the soccer circle. He didn't know any of the kids. He went to the soccer circle, and they broke the kids out into groups to start kicking the ball right up the field. My son kicked the ball 2 times to the sideline, went across right onto the playground, and went right onto the slide. Everyone, we looked at each other and we're like, well, I guess we're not ready for soccer. Let's let him enjoy himself on the playground. And if he wants to go back, we'll bring him back. But he wanted to go to the playground, and he came back and brought him back a second time. He went to the playground and said, we'll do it again next year when, if he wants to do it. But he wants to still go. That's what he's looking forward to doing, is going to the playground. Let him play in the playground. And, so that taught me a long time ago. Derek has a young baby right now that eventually will be doing some of these things. It's a girl. And so I'm just curious your thoughts about, just overall what you'd like to advise parents and coaches when they're approaching sport and baseball, and how you think is the best way to think about things.
Yeah, I think this is a good topic to end on as well, because it's so important, and it's a topic that comes up everywhere I go. When I run these sandlots around the country, we have a coaches and parents meeting
it's literally
afterwards.
probably your number one question, right?
And
Like,
it's the number one question. How do
question.
I coach my own child? How do I parent my own child?
So hard.
I have a podcast. I think we had a good long form conversation on it. It's an episode with a guy named Duke Baxter, who's a Jersey guy as well. And he has a great saying. He says, you know what, parents, the best thing you can say is, hey, kid, what kind of fan do you need me to be for you right now? Let's say it's a middle of a game and I'm the third base coach and I'm your dad. What kind of fan do you need me to be in that big moment? Do you like it when I clap? Do you like it when I'm quiet? Do you like it when I'm loud? You got to create this two-way street with them. The car ride home is another topic on parenting and having a kid playing. You got to let them start the conversation. Maybe you jot some notes down on a notepad of why they struck out or why they're missing that catch, whatever it might be. But you're going to allow them to be the one to say, hey, why did I strike out, Dad? How can I get better? If you're just force feeding your self-righteousness on them, it's a lose-lose. They're going to lose the love of the game because they're burnt out. All right. They can't match up to what their parents hoping for. And then you're going to lose the relationship at home. You want that relationship to thrive. I had a fireman in Texas just a few weeks ago. I was coaching a camp and he said, hey, I just want to let you know, I used to be that dad. I would cling to the fence and I would micromanage and I would yell and the car ride home was miserable. I watched a couple of your videos and changed my ways. And now me and my son, we love hanging out. Our relationship is thriving. So I think that's the ticket is can you create a two-way street and can you allow them to drive the car, so to speak? I'll end with this. As there's a lawnmower going crazy downstairs, my favorite thing to say to my daughters before a big event is, I love watching you play the game. Well, whatever that game is, I love watching you play the game. What is so underneath key. That means I love watching you fail. I love watching you succeed. I love watching you overcome adversity. I love it all. Create that dynamic. Because at the end of the day, they're probably not going to make it to the Olympics or the pros, but they're going to be your son or daughter for the rest of your life. And you want them to open up and be vulnerable and be free to chat with you about anything. I'll say this to close. The apology is powerful. I used to be insecure and think, oh, if I apologize for overreacting or doing something wrong, then I'm going to show my warts and all and be weak. It's not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of strength. When I overreact, and then I can come into my room, my daughter's room, and she's very strong-willed. She doesn't like to submit. And I can say, you know what? I spoke out of anger there. I apologize. I'm human. I'm flawed. Forgive me. Those are the moments when she'll meet me halfway and say, you know what? I could have done better too, Dad. So make sure that apology is done and be vulnerable enough to do that. Do that with your team too. If you need to, they'll never forget it.
Coach, absolute pleasure having you on. Thank you so much. I'm assuming they could go to Coach Ballgame to find everything, right? Website.
Sure can. Main hub, coachballgame.com. It's got it all. And then the social medias are at Coach Ballgame. If you're interested in that playbook that I've written, it's a 3-day online course to give you tools you need to wrangle kids and engage them and run effective practices and teach love of play and teach the skills in a fun, effective way. Then you've got my Coach Ballgame playbook. And I'm going to finish this book. I'm writing a kind of a memoir, but more of just my pillars of coaching book and how I got there. That should be out pretty soon too.
Great, Coach. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it. Awesome.
Absolutely awesome. Can't thank you enough.
All right, guys.
Check out Coach Ballgame. And I'm certainly, I can't wait till your coaching book comes out as well, because I want to get a copy.
Looking forward to it, Coach. Appreciate you.
Attaboys.
Have a great day. That was fantastic. Absolutely.
Excellent. A lot of tidbits, a lot of different things. I think ultimately what you take away from it is, it doesn't matter what the sport is, that when you coach the player and the person rather than the skill and all that other stuff, I think you come home and you get more with that. You know what I mean? Like, coach character, and that other stuff, it will become easier to coach.
Well said. Perfectly said. On that note, we'll see you, I guess, next week. I'm sure
Friday.
Friday. That's right. Friday we're back. That's right. Athletic director from
Passaic Valley.
Passaic Valley. All right. Until next time, another great episode. We'll see you guys soon.